So, Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas back in 2010 reintroduced traits back into the series as they were absent from Fallout 3, and then were suddenly ripped away yet again as they were nowhere to be found in Fallout 4. The basic idea of traits is that they are essentially perks that you can choose to take at the beginning of the game, but along with the benefits they provide, they will also come with some noticeable drawbacks. Examples include being able to fire faster at the cost of some accuracy, or gaining extra benefits when outdoors while performing worse in buildings. The only trait that has no noticeable drawbacks in New Vegas is Wild Wasteland, as all it does is add some weird and wacky encounters into the game world. If you're like me, then you will always take this at the beginning of the game, but despite having it on all my characters, I've never really made the trait a focus of the playthrough. That all changes today though, as I ask the question, can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only Wild Wasteland items? Thankfully for me, the game does a great job of letting you know what is in fact a part of the Wild Wasteland trait, as you will hear a sound cue followed by this in-game prompt. Also, bonus rule, I can't use caps in this run. Even if I do find them in Wild Wasteland encounters, I just figured it would be more fun this way. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin. With this many New Vegas runs under my belt, there's obviously no way for me to go into this blind, so I can adjust my special stats in a way that I believe benefits me the most. Having high endurance, intelligence, and luck are all pretty straightforward enough. Endurance for more health, intelligence for more skill points, and luck for more crits. The only other stat that I've bothered to put points into is perception, so that I may start with added points into my explosives and energy weapon skills. You will find out why this is important in a bit. I double down on this by just tagging the aforementioned skills, and then just end up going with sneak for my third, as it could be useful to slip away from fights early game when I am defenseless. Finally for traits, I take Wild Wasteland because, well, you know. Anyway, once I can start to play, I drop every single item in my inventory on Doc Mitchell's floor as a thank you gift, and proceed to my very first wacky event. The game has many different Wild Wasteland scenarios, but the only ones I'm interested in, of course, are the ones that give me access to new items to use. Everything is valuable to me right now, seeing how I'm butt naked, so I head straight for the well-done corpse of Harrison Ford to procure my first piece of clothing, that being the Suave Gambler hat. It offers zero protection, what with it being a hat and all, but on the upside, it does give me an extra point in perception, which would be a bigger deal if I hadn't already maxed it out during character creation. No matter, I won't let this useless piece of questionable fashion slow me down as I head 5 feet down the road to get an unmarked quest from Barton Thorne. Simply put, he wants me to rescue his non-existent girlfriend from the nearby geckos. I, of course, cannot harm these geckos as of yet, but as it just so happens, the stash of loot just past them is in fact another Wild Wasteland encounter. The cache is still there in the game without the trait, but with it active, it adds a few extra items, so that makes it fair game in my book. Reaching it was not actually as hard as I thought. Sure, the geckos like to nibble at my ankles if I get too close, but some incredibly basic rock climbing is more than enough to get me close enough to reap the spoils. I start by looting the body of Johnny, which gets me some more clothes in the form of reading glasses and the Merc Charmer outfit. This adds a whopping grand total of 1 to my damage threshold, so I am definitely a force to be reckoned with now. While the armor may have me disheartened, the 10mm pistol in his ammunition box, along with the 109 bullets for it, certainly puts a smile on my face. While having over 100 bullets sounds nice, let's remember it's all I have for now, so I opt to not waste any of them on the geckos that for some reason decide to dive off the cliff after me. Fortunately, Victor was in the area, so he distracted them long enough for me to make it back to Thorne's camp, where I could sleep off my injuries. I had planned to come back here and kill Barton, but he was nowhere to be found. Needing to kill something, I figured annoying the powder gangers now rather than later could never hurt, so I took out a few in the surrounding areas near Good Springs for some easy experience. Levels would be fairly important as I had planned to side with Mr. House, meaning it's bye-bye Brotherhood. Problem is, I can't use the keycard to set off the self-destructing base, so I would need a science skill of 100 to bypass the terminal. Speaking of the Brotherhood, the bark scorpions around their base are usually my go-to for early game experience, as they have low health and give 20 XP per kill. With that in mind, it doesn't take very long to reach level 2 and get the ball rolling on the destruction of steel. Of course, that can wait. As for now, I head through the Black Mountain shortcut and take the initiative to mark the fast travel point for the El Dorado substation now to cut down on backtracking later. While heading for Vegas is an option, I decided that seeing how I've got a loaded weapon and all the time in the world, that I could head down into Boulder City and find a way to resolve the situation with the Great Khans. When I arrive, as is the norm, I get ready to mess with Private Kowalski, when suddenly I'm momentarily jump scared by the NCR sergeant from the substation who travelled all this distance just to yell at me. Not to worry, he will get his comeuppance for this quite soon. Oddly enough, he stays in the area around Boulder City afterwards. I would have expected him to return to the substation, but seemingly that is not the case. Never mind that, I offer to get rid of the cans peacefully, Which is a lie, as I firmly plant a bullet into the back of Jessup's head the first chance that I get. Due to the pistol's condition and my abysmal gun skill, I lack the damage to one-shot him with a crit. It's not a massive setback, as I can just wildly fire into him until I've rattled his skeleton enough and he goes down. Surprisingly, the nameless can accompanying him proves to be quite the damage sponge. Usually he's easy enough to deal with, but seeing how Jessup is dead, he takes a sawn-off shotgun from his body, and now problems begin to arise. Wasting the last of my finite ammo was certainly an idea, but considering his upgraded damage output, I decided that just leaving the building and letting the NCR deal with the situation would be for the best. I chipped in a little bit during the scuffle, although not too much, as I liked my head attached to my shoulders. After the fighting stopped and I got my experience, I for some reason decided to mark Hoover Dam on the map, as I thought it may come in handy later. Long story short, I never made my way there, as I got glitched inside a bridge. Seems about right. Loading back to a more stable save, I began to swim across Lake Mead, for once not for the bomber, but because there's another Wild Wasteland scenario that I wish to visit. The swim to my destination was fairly tense due to the large fishermen constantly on my tail, but fortunately they never actually attacked me, which was strange as I could have sworn they can use that sonic brainwave thing in the water. Not that I'm complaining though, not getting brain blasted allowed me to make it to Ranger Station Bravo with almost all of my health. The encounter isn't actually at the ranger station, but rather this is the closest location to it. Heading just a little north of the station and you can see an undetonated bomb, very similar to the one in Megaton. Now, unlike Fallout 3, we are not going to commit countless war crimes by detonating the nuke, we will instead save that for the Fallout 3 Kill Everything run. But rather, we can dismantle it for parts. At least, that's what I would be saying, but as it turns out, I require a science skill of 60 before poking my head inside, so I'll have to come back in a level or two. Okay, so with weaponry at an all-time low, I would need something to defend myself with fast if I didn't want this to become a pacifist playthrough. The only thing I could think of at the time was the Abalone Kid BB gun, as with Wild Wasteland it spawns in a wild that only appears if you have the trait, along with Rex as a companion. With nothing to lose and zero ideas, it was off to New Vegas. The trip there was rather uneventful, other than when I shoved a man's head in the box because my girlfriend thought it would be, and I quote, good for the video. Arriving in Freeside, and once more the game denies me progress as I lack the speech skill to get past Pacer to meet the king. For what it's worth, even if I was using caps this run, I only had 10 from the Barton Thorn encounter, so I wouldn't have had enough to get by regardless. At this point, all hope seemed lost, but then suddenly I remembered that 3 holy hand grenades would have spawned for me in the church basement at Camp Searchlight. Sure, 3 grenades doesn't seem like much, no matter how deadly they are, but at this point, they seemed like the only option left for me, so it was back to Boulder City and then south to Searchlight. Thankfully, it's easy to spot the camp, as once you get close to the location, things will progressively start to go greener, and almost everything looks like Fallout 3. The NCR ghouls in the town aren't technically feral ghouls by game logic, but rather regular ghouls that chase you with combat knives, which is a good thing as it means they're incredibly easy to outrun. Outpacing the ghouls in town is one thing, but when I get to the church basement, things briefly take a turn for the worse, as I now must try dodging golden geckos in a very closed-in space. Naturally, it does not go very well for me. The prompt to grab the grenades was either glitching out on me, or it's incredibly precise, as it was difficult to pick them up before the geckos knocked me away. Eventually, I was able to get all 3, and then booked it out of there while I still could. The build-up of radiation poisoning was mildly concerning, as I wouldn't be able to get rid of it, but that wasn't my main concern for the time being, so it was back to Thorn's bed once more to heal up. Grabbing those grenades was truly the turning point for the run. It's not so much what damage I can do with them, but rather what they will allow me to do now that is about to break this run in half. Just west of the northern passage that you would normally enter to begin the Honest Hearts DLC, you can find another Wild Wasteland encounter. Aliens. 3 of them to be exact. Thankfully, this isn't some long drawn out mission like Mothership Zeta, but rather I just toss a single holy hand grenade in their direction and bask in the warm glow as my next set of weapons rain down upon me. The 2 normal aliens have tri-beam laser rifles along with a little ammo, which, while good, is not the reason we are here. It's when I loot the captain and can take his laser pistol and alien blaster that things truly begin to snowball. The alien blaster, from what I can tell, is an exact copy of the one in Fallout 3, meaning that not only does a crap ton of damage, but every single shot is a guaranteed critical hit. I could, by all rights, end the video now, as let's not kid ourselves, I'm going to decimate whatever stands in my way, but just for the fun of it, let's keep going. The strip was next on my list of places to be, but lacking funds and the science skill to get there by Freeside, I just ran past the guards at Camp McCarran and took the monorail. Despite the firepower at my disposal, full-on slaughter at the tops was not something I wanted to engage in. I saved that for the Omertas. But that still puts me in an odd position of what to do, as I cannot sneak my weapons in. Convincing Swank to let you carry your weapons is usually easy enough, but I am just below the speech requirement to do so. So to fix that, it's back to Goodsprings to complete the Goosetown gunfight quest, which I am very overqualified for by this point to say the least. As much as I would love to just disintegrate all of the powder gangers into blue dust, I managed to restrain myself so I may save the alien blaster for more worthwhile foes. Finishing the quest still isn't enough unfortunately, so continuing on my way to finish up the early game quests, I head into Prim, where I managed to level up before even entering the town proper. I could head back to the strip now, but I didn't see the harm in freeing the deputy, so I switched over to the tri-beam laser rifle to really just breeze through them all. Unsurprisingly, they all went down to a single shot. I then finally did something useful with that science skill by giving Pre-Slim free reign of Prim to do with as he sees fit. With my speech skill enhanced, Swank not only trusts me enough to carry weapons, but he'll also make sure the chairmen don't attack me should I pick a fight with Benny. Not that I would call shooting the man halfway across the casino a fight, but regardless, they did not intervene. Oddly enough, his bodyguards weren't even hostile when I approached them afterwards. With the chip in hand, I couriered it back to house, sat through the demonstration, and could now be on my way to the fort to begin my tasks. But first, it was time to head back to the One, that being the nuke from before, and ripping all the nuclear goodness from its metal shell. From this, I'm able to acquire 150 energy cells and 50 microfusion cells, so I can continue using my energy weapons for a bit longer. With a science skill of 60, I can also complete the crazy quest in Black Mountain for more XP, so I decided to sidetrack myself and do that next. Most of the energy cells that I got from the One were put to good use immediately, as I slowly burned through the evolved centaurs in the crater containing the Brotherhood members just next to Hidden Valley. This ended up using a lot more ammo than I would have thought, but considering the alien weaponry and grenades crafted by God himself in my back pockets, I'm not exactly worried if my laser pistol stops being useful. Of course, I end up doing this quest the fastest way I can by climbing up the back of the mountain and phasing my way through this gate with the power of the A button. I then fix up Rhonda before I get blown to bits by the missile sniper and get enough experience to level up and nearly max out my science skill. Okay, now it was finally time to make my way for Cottonwood Cove, as I am finally done getting sidetracked. At least for this video anyway. It's only a short jog from Camp Searchlight, so thanks to my previous adventures, I am there in no time at all. The Great Khans already hate me because of the Boulder City incident, so paying them a visit in Red Rock is unlikely, especially considering Mr. House doesn't even ask you to check up on them for his questline. Why am I bringing up the Great Khans again all of a sudden? Well, because I decided that Anders would be the first victim of the alien blaster. As you may have guessed, it one-shots him. And here is where I descend down the slope of quickly murdering my way through House's quests. That said, fighting through the fort is not advisable. Not because it's difficult, but because there are so many Legion soldiers that I just refuse to waste ammo on. Plus, one of the slaves transformed into some sort of abomination, so I didn't want to invite that wrath down upon me. After retrieving the platinum chip from Caesar that he took from me not 2 minutes ago, I descend into the bunker, where I initially planned to use the last of my energy weapons to clear out the protectrons and turrets. But upon realizing how fast I might die to radiation, I proceeded to switch to the big guns. As the footage demonstrates, not a damn thing in here even gets to think about slowing me down when I still have this much ammo left. I recruit the robot extras for House, and then it's on to the next task, that being the boomers. Even though I swam the entirety of Lake Mead earlier, I ended up just going the massacre route here. If I have the weapons at my disposal, I may as well put them to good use. Besides, better this than fumbling around with ants and Jack's creepy love life for 20 minutes. With the boomers done and dusted, it was on to the Brotherhood of Steel. The Brotherhood manages to fight back and take me down a few times due to the men at the door bringing me down to critical condition, meaning I would need to clear out the whole first floor before I could rest in one of their beds to heal up. Like everyone else, they still do go down to one headshot from the bright blue Wonder Gun, but I am giving credit where credit is due. What's funny about this is that if you actually make sure to go through and wipe out every single last Brotherhood member yourself like this, then you don't need to blow up the base. So essentially, my science skill did not need to go above 60 this run. That said, even though I do kill them all single-handedly, I still blow up the base anyway, just to rub some salt in the wound. I was hoping I'd be able to save Kimball as my rep with the NCR was positive due to my work in Boulder City, but for some reason I was still not allowed. Mildly annoyed at this, I made my way down to the substation and decided to give them a reason to be mad at me. I told you the NCR sergeant would get what was coming to him. After this, it's time for the Battle of Hoover Dam, and I mean, what do I say? Just look at it. So it's clear to say that I did the cardinal sin of every RPG player by saving my super powerful weapons in case I ran into a situation, and here I am at the end of the game throwing 2 holy hand grenades at Lanius and wiping him from existence before he even gets a chance to begin his speech. Oliver also meets a similar fate when met with the alien blaster along with his men. With that, House approaches me, finishing the game and proving yes, you can indeed beat Fallout New Vegas with only Wild Wasteland items. Well, that was certainly a lot easier than I thought it would be. For some reason I thought the alien blaster in New Vegas was weaker than its Fallout 3 counterpart, but it seems I was heavily mistaken. Come to think of it, I may actually have been thinking about the Fallout 4 one, which is the weaker one. Oh well. Regardless, that's going to be in this challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider the video a like and interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe to one of these videos. Wait, my name is from the top. Regardless, that's going to be in this challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider the video a like and you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe to one of these videos. Wait, my name is Nerbit. Stay safe, everyone. I'll see y'all in the next video.